Good to go.
Thanks, Katie. Thank you all for joining me today. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which I'm situated, and I'm kind of like on a border. So, with the Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung, and Bunurong lands of the peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nation, I acknowledge their elders past and present, and the country itself, the earth and the sky, the waterways and the sea, the flora and fauna and all of that on land that has never been seeded. So today I'm presenting this on behalf of myself and three of my colleagues, Associate Professor Kate Coleman, Hilary Dodd, and Associate Professor Richard Sallis. Therefore, I will refer to us rather than me across the presentation. I think who we are contextualizes to some degree and explains the development of the hybrid approach that I'll discuss today. I'm a musician and a music artographer. There's only a few of us around, and I'm currently coordinating the fully online capstone subject in the Master of Teaching program at Melbourne. And I've been designing and teaching in online learning for over 10 years in the university and in schools. So before COVID hit, I was teaching online and developing online um, things. Kate is a visual artist, an artographer, and she was a specialist learning designer for many, many years before even joining our university. I think at New South Wales she was. And she is an inspired and creative thinker in online learning space design. Hilary is a museum and arts educator, and Richard is a theatre practitioner who researches through theatre-based research approach and is an experienced online educator. Pardon me. Excuse me. In this presentation, I'll discuss one subject that was purposefully designed with an innovative hybrid arts approach within the arts and creativity specialisation suite of subjects offered at our university. That subject's called Creativity, Cultures and the Arts, and it's very broad in terms of it's very Catholic in its ideas of what culture, creativity and the arts are, which I think is really exciting. As a hybrid subject, it combines digital and physical studio spaces, consisting of asynchronous modules and in-person workshops and museum visits. Within the subject, we've reimagined what online and hybrid teacher education can look like through core central online learning modules combined with contributions to weekly Padlets and have integrated those with museum and gallery visits and in-person studio sessions. So it's a very holistic, not one is not more important than the other. So it considers the importance of hybrid learning in teacher education, and that weaves within and through the online and in-person spaces, using central elements of collation, collaboration, understanding, and assessment, believe it or not. So spaces and places, which is in the title. So you might ask, what do we mean by spaces and places? I've kind of already indicated to that. So the spaces and places that we engage in are online, digital. They are e-portfolio spaces, studios, museums, and galleries. Uh, One of the interesting things about the subject is it's open to educators across disciplines. So they don't necessarily have to be arts specialists. So we integrate a range of experiences and sites for and of learning. For the non-art specialists, the experiences and learning in the subject open thinking in terms of different ways of engaging in learning, both online and hybridly. As a hybrid design, the subject models how different spaces can be pedagogically orchestrated to sustain presence, participation, and connection within the subject and engage the students, therefore engage the students. So we use a canvas platform because that's what our university uses. And we also use PebblePad because a university, that is university sanctioned for our university, and so it's secure. And we also give it to the students when they leave. So the uni pays for them to take their PebblePad with them. So it's in their best interest to dump as much as they can in PebblePad before the end of their course. Um, so it's a really interesting thing, that hybrid design. Um, Through that, the subject models how different spaces and places can be pedagogically orchestrated to sustain that participation and maintain a presence and have a connection within and between other students and within the subject materials. Um, I think the Pebble Pad as a reflective portfolio and assessment space and Canvas are used to show how multimodal practice-based approaches can engage students in that hybrid context. Students who don't engage in the online modules struggle when we get to the studios and the other things. So those who think, oh, I don't need to do that, I'll just ignore that online bit because we don't monitor it. They're master's level students. They realize pretty fast when they're kind of um, self-declared publicly embarrassed when they don't know what they were supposed to know or haven't done what they were supposed to do and arrive and say, well, how was I supposed to know? Well, if you'd done the learning materials, you would have known. I think it's also really interesting the many discussions about the idea of the more than human, which are out there in many ways, and especially for the arts, and how they've emerged in relation to education, technology, online learning, and the multiple interpretations of what that can look like. So, in this case, the hybrid approach was seen as potentially the most powerful with a central pillar of the e-portfolio, which, as I said, is also the place of assessment. I'll show you one a bit later. We have a student who was very, very pleased when we said, can we share your work at a conference? And he said, I would be so honored. So, um, so we've designed the learning experience with distinct and different spaces based in that idea of the online central pillar and punctuated by studio sessions and also visits to museums and galleries that are within the university. So we've gone, we had, they have one session in the science gallery, and when I say a session, it's 4 hours. Um, One at the Potter Museum of Art, and then the Granger Museum for music. And Granger was such an interesting character. If anyone knows anything about him, quite wild that they're very engaged by that. He made his own terry telling clothing. He took photographs of himself before and after food. He was into sadomasochism, and there are photographs of him engaging in that. There are letters to and from his father. He was an absolute collector. So it gives a perspective of the creative being and the creative composer as a whole person rather than someone special and hallowed. All of his flaws and his humanness are exposed in that. So oh, sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the e-portfolio here. The e-portfolio, as I've said, the Pebble Pad, it centrally scaffolds the subject. So students can upload anything into their Pebble Pad. We call it a dumping ground. So they can do anything they've collected, anything they've created, anything they've collated, or they can co-collate within their Pebble Pad. It could be blogging, storying, visual journaling, written journaling, videos, images, personal artworks, musical compositions, poems, stories, and many of them use those as vehicles in the exhibition that what that they give at the very end. It's like Yeah, we have a sort of exhibition. It's almost like an installation, really, and that then they work with peer feedback, but I'll talk about that in a minute. They're also expected to engage with the weekly Padlet posts and collaborative activities, and many of those are prompted by the asynchronous learning materials. Um, Now, in terms of the Pebble Pad e-portfolio, the as an assessment tool, it is built so it's scaffolded really, really carefully from the beginning. Last year was the first year that we delivered this subject, and so we changed a lot of things for this year, and it's much firmer. But it was really interesting that what came out of that was this real need for a central assessment purpose and place, and that acted also as a learning tool. So the assessment and learning are intrinsically interwoven. I think that's one of the really interesting strengths of this. So assessment often sits outside what you do. So you do that and then you assess that. That's assessed. But so this is actually woven in. So the doing and the being and the engaging is also the assessment. It's a really interesting approach, and Kate developed that. She's quite a brain. For anyone who knows Kate, she's quite extraordinary. Um, so and I'm using this thing that I've just termed, which I'm calling we're kind of testing it as a form of AI resistant assessment. So rather than we can't, I know Siobhan, you were saying that your colleagues are working with this. How can you make it AI proof? But I'm wondering myself in my own experiences, and I manage over 600 students in a year, and 29 staff. How we do that, or whether we just a lot of it is about resisting the imposition that the non-human has put on us through AI. So students add pages for their assessments that directly build on each other. So it acts as a form of proof that students are engaging in their own work. And kind of that is triangulated through the work done in the studio sessions where students demonstrate and expand on activities and things that they've done within their ideas of the e-portfolio, and they do things like create an exhibition or performance, and they using prompts or questions that are given to them, then reflecting on those after, explaining them to their peers and recording those and putting those up as part of assessment, and then responding to the peer questioning. So it's about peer learning as well and peer assessment. And that shows both the development of their projects and also gives you an insight into the depth of the inquiry that they have conducted or are conducting. And in that, the e-portfolio is positioned as a site of teacher education. And it's a place of reflection and really important as a professional identity formation site. So it kind of aligns with the conference themes for this conference of presence, praxis, and possibility, because it prepares current and future educators to design and facilitate learning across their online, in-person, and hybrid environments. I think the hybridity has actually given it a strength that I hadn't seen in either of the others by themselves. It's a really interesting thing. And I think as people think differently and engage differently, that is also something that makes us think about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So it offers different ways and possibilities for approaching online teacher education and is deeply embedded in arts praxis. And that requires presence both online and digitally and in person. So, there you go. There's a picture of the science gallery. This is a picture from the Granger Museum. So so methodologically we work with the e-portfolio, but we work also drawing on arts-based educational research and in specifically artography and research-based theatre. So the portfolio spans the assessment tasks, as I've already explained, and it's about the participants critically examining relationships among teachers, artists, learners, and cultural institutions. Now, there's probably something I need to explain here that's really interesting about this. What is an artist? What is the artist in artography? Artist, researcher, teacher. If you take artist and you change that, or you extrapolate out of that to practitioner, it doesn't have to be an arts person who can engage with this and understand this. And we have students across different disciplines who come in and find themselves a place within artographic methodological research because they are the practitioner, whether they're a scientist, whether they're in business, whether they're in, another area in literacy or literature, so that being the artist is being the practitioner. And you look, I mean, look at what scientists do. It is an art form, let's face it. So that idea of arts practice as practitioner practice. So that's something I think that's really important because it broadens out this idea of the purpose and the place of using arts-based research methodologies across a broader spectrum because a lot of methodologies are quite closed and artographic um, research methodological approaches offers a breadth. And for me, I mean, I think it feeds into self-study. It's a form of critical autoethnography, ethnographic. So it's about being able to look at yourself as a site of research as well. And that has been really important to this. So, um, so really the subject enables students to move across their practice and the arts through visual arts, design, theatre, music, dance, media, and positions them as reflective practitioners and knowledge makers and knowledge builders within their own practices as well. It also enables them to look at their own artistic, and I'm talking about that in the broader sense of practitioner practice. So it's that fluidity of what is an artist that I think is really important here, and that the fact that the way the world is changing so much and there's so much of it is focused in on the self and to the point of, almost narcissism in many cases on social media, that there is a move towards that. So being able to look at the self honestly as a practitioner slash artist is a really important thing. It's something that people in the arts do all the time. We're trained to do it. We're trained to examine ourselves down to the smallest flea type part of ourselves. As a musician, you have to be able to produce, high quality performances through multiple iterations of practice and interpretation. As a visual artist, you have to be able to show that in the performing arts. So it's the the site of the artistic practice is gone as soon as it's done. Dance, theatre, music, unless somebody records it and then you look back on it or you listen back on it and you go, oh, look, listen to my mistakes. You never see it as what it was that the audience sees, unless you're in a studio and it's cut and you've done all of that recording kind of stuff, or it's been cut together as a film, for example, in film practice. So as I've said, the assessments are scaffolded within the Pebble Pad, and they're about what you're doing, what you're learning, and it's an exploratory and inquiry-based way of thinking. The final assessment task for the subject is this presentation, or kind of a, what did I call it before? An installation type. Um, and it highlights how engaging in hybrid practice-led, inquiry-driven learning expands pedagogical possibilities building a capacity to design inclusive, creative, and context responsive teaching across diverse educational settings. It's really important for educators because we are, a lot of the ways that, oh, you do this in a classroom, that's gone. And we have to be fluid and flexible thinkers of, it's not going well. I can't go down that rabbit hole. I have to be able to think and respond like this. And so to educate our educators to be like that is a really important thing. So on to Eddie. I'll call him Eddie. So this is Eddie's pebble pad. This is so you see here in the left, you can see here in the left, these are the different pages, and he named them after Beatles songs. And these were the different pages that created his his developmental portfolio, where he came from throughout the subject, but also what he brought into it. So that was, you can see how the pebble pad is sequentially built, and it's scaffolded through to the end. Um, so this was what he was looking at. He started with Nowhere Man because he was looking at translanguaging in music educational through artography, using that artographic lens, and it was a lot about how he felt, his sense of belonging about as well. He was inspired by the work of Peter Gouzeau's, who was basically the first music cartographer, alongside Rita Irwin, who's an arts cartographer, and also my colleagues, Kate, Sarah Healy, Richard, who also teaches into it, and Amanda Bolton, who've looked at those ideas too. So I'm going to play. Oh, no, this is. Oh, hang on. I have to move my picture of myself so I can see. Okay, so this is one of the songs that Eddie wrote. This is just a fragment of it, of his translanguaging through Japanese, through Chinese, through English, and how he went to that. And so I'm just going to, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to play it, a bit of it for you. So can you hear it okay?
Pip, if you change your share settings,
Sorry, sorry. Sorry?
we're not hearing it directly through the computer, we're hearing it through your speakers. So
Oh,
you
are
need
you?
to go to the share button again,
Yeah.
and there should be a little thing over on the right-hand side that says share computer sound, and that should improve it.
Share computer sound. Oh, I can't find it. Sorry. I've just on the share button, I've just got
It might have little tick box.
Yes, good to go.
allow. Okay, let's see if it works.
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りしました。
Oh my God, is that right?
Seven-Eleven 买点好的包，公司的 every man 怎么能够忘得掉？给那些妹妹分类，见过的买的心碎，有福气特别珍贵，那带忧伤的笑，这让我想起你当时的红色皮肤，买把普通的吉他，没有走红的机会。在你说你 honestly think I'm an artist is the problem， 别管他们画笔狂问，你当我的蒙娜丽莎。第一次见你，你发我个全日语歌单，我都没听过，除了一些通过电视里的番。我们很快在了一起，每天沿着彼得潘，订了去东京的双人机票，选择绿色看。再用起手机 ring ring， 接着仔细聆听，不敢清醒，像做了一场噩梦。世界变得宁静，我无法平静，后悔没早清醒，带着你去往涩谷。你的承诺 I believed it， 新的生活 I believed it， 会有成果 I believe， 但你没等我 break free， 最后我一人退了票，走完道别没得到，本来爱你飞得要，现在换我追着跑，那天雨下来自叫 I was crying very loud， 你是只会飞的鸟，那个冬天回了巢。
Okay, I'll just stop sharing. Sorry. So you can see what is done, and you can hear what has happened, and it's pretty extraordinary, really. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint again?
Yes, we are seeing, we're not seeing
Yeah,
the full screen, that's all.
this one. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. All right. So Yeah, so you can see what he was doing through translanguaging and how that actually, what he said about that was, sorry, next, this is some of what he had written in his assessment about what he experienced. I'm not going to read it all, of course. But that thing of lack of belonging and the immersion of Chinese, English, and later Japanese culture, because he had lived in different places, and how that came together to be him, and his history of integration, and how he delved into his three artographic identities, really, and allowing him for spaces of entanglement and exploration, showing that hybridity can be it can be rich and effective pedagogy. So we've found that opening those possibilities was richer than we initially thought was possible. The students who don't engage, as I've said, they fall behind really fast and they don't get the same response out of it. So overall, the subject does reimagine the possibilities for online hybrid learning in a model that offers possibilities outside wholly online teacher education, but within the scope of the fast-changing world that is looking for efficiencies and flexibility. So that's all. Thank you. I'll just stop sharing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pip. We have less than a minute left.
I know.
And
Sorry about that.
I was so immersed, I didn't even look at the time. So I would actually really love to chat with you afterwards. And as I think Katrina would, once you see our presentation, you'll understand why.
Yes.
Does anyone have anything they want to share or ask in the little bit of time we've got left?
Probably just thank you. Thank you very much, Pip. That was really lovely and enlightening and refreshing, and it was lovely to see different ways in which you're assessing students and engaging them in the pedagogies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the interesting thing is the